What goes up must come down, unless it's a cat. In which case gravity gets a gentle reminder that loopholes exist. 1 second there's a blur of whiskers launching off a bookshelf like a tiny parkour athlete. The next second boom, 4 perfect paws touched down as if the floor politely rose to meet them. It looks like magic. It isn't, it's physics, with attitude. Here's the wild part. Earth is pulling on every cat at the exact same 9.8 meters per second squared as the rest of us. Gravity isn't playing favorites, but cats show up to this eternal wrestling match with a built-in strategy guide. Flexible spine? Check. Spooky fast reaction time? Check. A balance system that works like a gyroscope you can pet? Also check. Put it all together and you get an animal that treats falling like a problem to be solved in midair. Start with the blueprints. A cat's skeleton is basically a slinky with claws. The spine has extra vertebrae and absurd mobility, letting the front half and the back half rotate somewhat independently. That independence is crucial, because in midair, you can't push off anything. To rotate, you twist one section in one direction and the other in the opposite direction, canceling out the total spin so physics doesn't freak out. Cats do this instinctively. Front half turns, back half counters, and suddenly the belly is pointed at the ground. No jetpacks needed. That move is famous enough to have a name, the riding reflex. Kittens started developing it around a month old and dialed it in a few weeks later. The trigger sits deep in the inner ear. In the vestibular system, the same motion sensors that tell you which way is up after you hop off a roller coaster. Tiny fluid-filled canals and hair cells signal tilt and rotation. The brain says, "We are upside down," and the body replies, "Copy that, flipping now." It's autopilot. But furry. Watch it in slow motion and you can break the flip into beats. First, head orientation. The cat locks the eyes and heads on the horizon like a camera stabilizer. Next, front half rotation. The shoulders and ribs twisted. Paws tucking tight to speed the spin. Meanwhile, the back half stretches out a bit long cat mode to slow its own rotation, like a figure skater opening their arms. Then the roll switch, back half tucks and turns while the front half extends to brakes. The net effect is a clean 180 or 360 without violating conservation of angular momentum. It's elegant, fast, and rude to everything you learned in middle school, even though it follows the rules perfectly. Let's talk tails. Because the internet loves to claim a cat steers with its tail. Not exactly. The tail helps with balance and fine-tuning, especially during sprints and sharp turns. And it can add small rotational tweaks in a fall. But the real workhorse is the spine and the tuck and extend choreography of the limbs. Many cats with short tails or even no tails still write themselves like acrobats. The tail is spiced, not the whole recipe. Now, landing. Cats don't just aim for feed down and hope for the best, they prepare the suspension system. Their paw pads are little shock absorbers, fatty, fibrous pillows under each toe. The stance is digitigrade, meaning they walk on their toes, which keeps the heels up and the leg springs loaded. When contact happens, it's often front paws first by a split second, then hind paws. That staggering spreads the force over time. A neat physics hack called impulse management. Joints flex like a collapsing origami wrists. Elbows, shoulders, then hips, knees, ankles, each joint eating a slice of impact. It's the same principle elite parkour athletes use when they roll out of a drop. Except the cat skips the rolls and sticks the landings like it owns the place. Because it does. Size also helps. Smaller bodies have a higher surface area to mass ratio. More areas for air to push against means more drag per pound, which means lower terminal velocity. A cat falling through the air will, after a certain drop, stop accelerating and topping out around the speed of a car in city traffic, not a highway meteor like a human. And cats instinctively parachute once they're oriented. They splay out legs wide, the body broadened, which jacks up drags and lowers that final speed even more. The spread isn't a panic flail. It's a calculated slow down, mid-air math done by muscle memory. Of course, gravity still wins plenty. Cats can and do get hurt in falls. The riding reflex is a survival tool, not a force field, but the combination of lower terminal velocities, flexible suspension, and ninja-level body control stacks the odds in their favor compared to, say, a toaster. Don't test it, the universe has enough experiments running already. So how does this play out in everyday chaos? Picture a kitchen counter launch. The cat crouches, loading energy in the hind legs like a compressed spring. Muscles along the spine ripple to aim the arc. Quick eye flick calculates the distance and angle. Cats have a remarkable sense of depth, thanks to forward-facing eyes and a brain that's very practiced at "can I make that?" The rush off is explosive. Mid-flight, micro-adjustments happen, a tail twitch to trim yaw, a shoulder roll if the trajectory's a hair off. If the landing surface shifts, maybe a cutting board wiggles. The feedback loop updates in milliseconds. Paws flex, body cushions. Disaster dodged. To a cat, this is Tuesday. Then there's the classic shelf slip. One paw misses. The body tilts. Gravity grins. The head snaps to level. And the riding sequence triggers almost before you realize anything happened. A tuck here, an extended there, spinning balanced like a bar trick. And the cat hits the rugged feet first, insulted but intact. On replay, you'll notice moments where the limb scissors outward, not to slow acceleration but to manage rotational inertia. It's like watching someone adjust a ceiling fan speed by moving the weights on the blades, except the fan is alive and has opinions. Why are cats built like this? Evolution wrote the syllabus. Wild cats climb, stalking, pouncing, and occasionally misjudging branches. The ones who could twist, landing softly, and not snapping a leg had a better shot at dinner and at making more little acrobats. Over millions of years, features that supported aerial control and safe landings were reinforced: elastic tendons, compliant joints, spines that bend like question marks, clavicles that float rather than lock the shoulders in place. It's the ultimate tree cat toolkit. We also need to talk reflex speed. The neural highways from inner ear to spinal cord are fast. Reflex arcs don't wait for a committee meeting in the cerebral cortex. The body hears up is wrong and flips the emergency switch. That's why you can barely see the decision happening. You're watching a hardwired subroutine, not a debate. The same speed shows up in the whisker system. Whiskers are sensory superpowers, detecting airflow and closing obstacles. They don't ride the body, but they help with last-inch adjustments when landing in tight spaces, reducing the chances of clipping an edge or face planting into a box flap. Think of them as parking sensors for a sports car that refuses to admit it's parking. Now, the science of stupid bit isn't about calling cats dumb, please. They're out here using physics like a life hack handbook. The stupid part is how many everyday situations weaponize gravity in silly ways, and how cats somehow finesse the outcome. Slick hardwood floors, low friction turns your living room into an ice rink. The cat compensates with claws for traction and a lower center of mass. Body dropping into a hovercraft glides to keep balance. Collapsing laundry piles, terrain shifts underfoot. The cat rides the moving surface by keeping limbs bent and responsive, never locking out the joints the way humans often do when we panic. The difference between splat and swagger is flexibility plus reaction time. Let's get nerdy for a second and decode the math you're seeing in those hallway zoomies. When a cat corners at speed, it's fighting centripetal forces with friction and leaning. The lean angle depends on speed squared divided by turning radius and gravity. Cats solve that equation on the fly by leaning just enough and adjusting paw splay to boost grip. Tail flicks help fine-tune angular momentum in yaw, preventing a spine out. To your eyes it looks like a blur wrapping around a corner. To physics, it's controlled slip with dynamic stability. Formula 1 but fluffy. Even the flop is tactical. That dramatic side plop onto the floor isn't just drama, it's a reset. By going loose and long, a cat can bleed off residual energy and reset balance sensors. In falls, this go limp strategy shows up as a final phase after orientation. The body spreads to increase drag and the muscles avoid stiffening, because a stiff system transmits force, while a compliant one dissipates it. Parkour folks talk about soft landings, knees bent, heels up, rolling. Cats translates that into 4-point flex and a micro squat on impact. It's not chilling, it's technique. Myths time. Myth 1. Cats always land on their feet. No, they often do, because they are incredible. But height, surface, obstacles, and health all matter. Myth 2. The tail is the steering wheel. It's more like a trim tab. Myth 3. Cats are fearless. Cats are calculated. They run risk assessments at ridiculous speed. You're watching an animal that knows it can get away with a lot, so it does. If you've ever had a cat bounce off your curtains, you've heard the sound of gravity getting roasted. Curtains are chaos, moving targets, flexible surface, terrible footholds. The cat treats each clawed grip as a temporary anchor, swinging and re-anchoring, converting downward momentum into sideways motion until there's a launch point. From there, riding reflexes, parachute stance, and a landing that pretends none of that just happened. The confidence isn't arrogance, it's practice. Cats repeat micro falls daily, calibrating reflexes and building a library of if this, then that responses. The edge of the couch is a training facility. The top of the fridge is advanced class. Here's another underappreciated trick: sensory prioritization. In the split second of a slip or drop, cats downgrade everything except balance and orientation. Ears flatten, pupils blow wide, whiskers aim forward. It's like an airplane going to emergency power on critical systems. That focused state is why the flip and land happens with weird composure. Then, 3 seconds later, the animal acts like it meant to do that. Because honestly, it kind of did. All of this gives cats a head start in the physics game, but it also puts their bloopers in perspective. When they misjudge a jump, the error usually happened at the calculation step distance, traction, or moving surfaces, not at the mid-air fix. The riding reflex is there to turn a bad bet into a survivable one. If you're living with a feline stunt coordinator, layout choices matter more than lectures. Vertical pads with stable platforms reduce the odds of dumb gravity drama. Soft landings beat sharp corners. Rugs are your friends. Gravity is undefeated, but your furniture doesn't have to help it. So, cats vs gravity isn't really a fight. It's a rivalry among pros. Gravity provides the rules, cats read them, highlighting the loopholes, and trains like maniacs. They twist without torque, brakes without brakes, and land like a 4-wheel drive trampoline. The next time a whiskered daredevil yeets itself off a windowsill, remember what's actually going down: sensors firing, equations solving, springs loading, air dragging, joints absorbing. An entire physics lecture compressed into half a second and delivered by a creature that then walks away like, "I meant to." That's not cheating, that's mastery. And if gravity is the straight-A student of the universe, cats are that kid who shows up late, borrows a pencil, and still aces the test. Not because the rules don't apply, but because they learned how to make the rules work for them. 4 paws, 1 spine, a brain wired for mid-air math, and a total disrespect for the idea that falling is failure. It's not magic, it's mechanics with whiskers.